All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's NASCAR 07 Mark Martin Revenge Tour race. And for today, we are at the Richmond Raceway for the halfway point of our regular season. Well, our season in general, I guess it's fully a regular season because there is no playoff or chase format on this custom schedule season. So coming into this race, massive points lead as you'll see scrolling across the top of the screen. Obviously, we have the most wins of any driver this season, just coming off our 10th win of the year at Michigan. We've actually won back-to-back races at Talladega and Michigan, and now trying to go for 3 in a row. Qualified on the pole for tonight's race. It is the final 50% race of the season, so it is just 200 laps today around this 3/4 mile short track. Be sure to like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. Live commentary for the Daytona race weekend coming up for the NASCAR Chalk Xfinity and Cup Series. Can't wait to bring you guys the action for that. Big Daytona week, in fact, on the channel, because tomorrow night we'll be doing the Pepsi 400 on NASCAR 07, which happens to be our next race of this Mark Martin Revenge Tour race. So we get to run that race. I plan on doing a Throwback Thursday stream on Friday evening, which will be taking place before the start of our live commentary for the Xfinity Series race. We will be watching the 2001 Pepsi 400 at Daytona. So bringing back Throwback Thursday as well this weekend, and hopefully you guys will tune in for that. More on that in the community tab tomorrow. At some point in time, I'll try to get it up when I'm on break at work. So as for tonight, let's get this race underway. Without further ado, let's roll. I'll tangle up here. I got my controller right around my mic wire. There we go. We're good. Just in time. Green flag is in the air. We're underway at Richmond, and this is going to be a very short race on a short track. Newman almost cleared Martin getting into the first turn. Martin did a great job staying underneath him and makes the clean pass on the Rocket Man. And just like that, it'll be Mark Martin from the pole leading the first lap of the race, trying to pick up where he left off in dominance on the season, that is. He didn't dominate Michigan. Jeff Gordon actually led the most laps in that race, but Martin had the fastest car. Just had to sit behind Gordon, save some fuel in the draft, so that way he could make the race on 3 stops if it went caution-free, and it did. So we'll see if we have back-to-back caution-free Cup races. We have a chance tonight. I know it's a short track, but we're only running half the distance. It's a good job by Newman getting into second place in line right behind Martin as well, splitting up the Roush cars. Matt Kenseth sitting in third. 3 straight top 5s for Kenseth coming in. He had back-to-back second place finishes in the Coke 600 3 races ago at Charlotte, and then also at Talladega when he finished behind his teammate Mark Martin in that 1-2 finish for Rush Fenway Racing. He has now jumped up to 3rd in points with this hot streak he's got going on in the middle portion of this season. Wade Solinsky, Mark DeMars, Philip Moore, Esteban Tobar Souza, and others, welcome into the stream. 4 laps in. Dominant season. I'm honestly curious as to how many races early will clinch the championship, because the pace we're on right now, it is looking like we should be able to clinch the championship before the season finale if we can keep the pace going. That's the big thing. We have a lot of races still. 18 left after this race is over. We'll only be halfway through the season. Newman pulling away from Kenseth, and Martin pulling away from Newman and Kenseth. Kenseth seems to be holding back a couple cars in third. Martin not wasting any time. I didn't practice. I ran 1 lap of qualifying. The car felt really good. I ended up tightening it up just a little bit. I had a slightly looser setup in it so I could have more of a chance of qualifying on the pole. And then for the longer runs of the race, because we run longer races on the channel, I wanted to tighten it up just a little bit. And it honestly feels perfect right now. Honestly, I don't plan on making any adjustment changes during this first pit stop, and I don't know how many stops we're going to have in this one. That's one thing that is yet to be determined. A full Richmond race, I would be thinking it'd be a 3-stopper, but in a 50% race, it's going to be in a fuel window that is not going to be the same as what it would be if we were running a 100% race. I'm not sure exactly by how many laps it's going to be accelerated. So with that being said, I don't know if it's going to be a 2 or a 3-stop race. I'd imagine we're going to have more than 1 stop, because I think a full fuel run here is right around 110 to 125, 130 laps, in that range. We're running 50% of the race. I don't see us going anywhere near that far. If we could somehow make it to the halfway point, I guess it'd be just a one-stopper. There are a lot of bigger names that qualified in the back of the field. I noticed Dale Jarrett qualified dead last at 43rd on a short track and a very short race. I'm curious to see exactly how quickly he can potentially move through the field. Lack of cautions could potentially hurt him. With that being said as well, it's going to be tough to beat the 16 here today. I mean, obviously we haven't gotten into an extremely long run yet, only 11 laps in, but this car feels great. And I'm only going to get more and more comfortable with it the more laps we run. 21.763, continuing to pick up on the fastest time of the race. Travis Clanton, thanks for tuning in. Six early likes on the stream as well. Be sure to hit that like button if you guys have not done so yet. We'll alternate through the different camera angles for the first time in the early laps of this race. Martin's already got just over a 1 second race lead over Ryan Newman. 1.1 seconds at the start-finish line that last time by. You know it's going to be a good night when you can balance grip and speed, and that's exactly what Mark Martin and the 16 have been able to accomplish just before the drop of the green flag. And obviously, now that we're in the race, you can easily see the speed differential he's got versus the rest of the field behind him. And even his teammate Matt Kenseth didn't really have anything for him there off the start. That's how Newman was able to get in line in second. Newman pulling away from the rest of the field. I almost wonder if Kenseth maybe doesn't have quite as quick of a car, was kind of holding a lot of cars up in third. May start slipping backwards through the field just a bit. The more laps we go into this green flag run. See, not knowing exactly what the fuel window is with this being a 50% race, that does kind of hurt us a little bit if we were to get a caution. So I have no clue if they would end up pitting or not. How much extra fall off we're going to have with the accelerated pit window as well. About 8 laps, Mark Martin's growing his lead out about 0.6 of a second, so he's a little less than a tenth quicker a lap right now than Newman. Just ran his best lap again, 21.704, holding a really low exit off of turn 4 especially, and trying to use the inside lane of the tri-oval to try to almost kind of shortcut the racetrack a little bit. Not necessarily going all the way to the apron, but just trying to keep the car as low as possible. And it's working. Again, I have the grip to be able to do so. It's a very wide exiting corner. You're just not going all the way up the track. It seems to be helping. Obviously, having the clean air is going to help Mark Martin for right now. Once he gets into lap traffic, could potentially struggle just a little bit, but right now there is zero struggle at all. Santiago Kid, thanks for tuning in. Bowman's race car for Daytona. Is he running a different paint scheme than what he would usually run with the Ally colors? I mean, I guess he's had quite a few like alternative Ally paint schemes this year compared to what he's had the last few years. I feel like for the majority of the season they tend to kind of stick to the base scheme that they have when they unload at Daytona for the 500 at the beginning of the season, but it doesn't seem like they've really done that this year. As much, at least. Like when I was at Michigan a couple weeks ago, they had a Detroit Pistons styled Ally financial race car, which I thought was pretty cool considering I'm a Detroit Pistons fan, so cool to see that. Coming up on lap 27 this time by, over an eighth of the way through the race, still caution free. And of course our last caution we would have had was with about 18 laps to go 2 races ago at Talladega. We had 10 cautions in that race for that 500-mile event, and then in the 400-mile Michigan race that we had just 2 nights ago, caution free. And this race, not going to be very long. Only 200 laps. It's a 150-mile race, very short. Again, I would not be surprised if we have back-to-back caution-free races. Now, the next thing on the schedule is that we go back to a super speedway again at Daytona for the Pepsi 400. Considering we're just off the heels of a super speedway just 2 races ago at Talladega, I would imagine we'll probably see quite a few cautions in that race like we saw at Dega. It's 100 miles shorter of a race, so we might not have 10 cautions per se, but I also remember that Daytona 500 having a handful of cautions at the beginning of the season, and Mark Martin trying to win the first 2 out of 3 Daytona races on the schedule. Season finale at Daytona, but we might not end up getting to that point. So it could be going for the sweep in tomorrow night's race. I can't remember exactly what series it was in NASCAR 06 that we were trying to clinch the championship early for like 3 races we had a chance to, and I didn't clinch it in either one, and it still came down to the season finale at Talladega. I had to finish like 37th or something going in, but the fact that I didn't close the deal the first 2 races before that. And I mean, you never know, you finish that far back in the season finale. It's easy when you're on a super speedway if you get in a wreck early. Luckily we stayed out of trouble, and if I remember correctly, I think we might have actually won that race. Number of cautions at Daytona will be 9. I don't know. I'd have to go back and see how many we had in our Daytona 500 because we ran that so long ago. I think we ran it during speed weeks of Daytona in real life this year, so it's been a while. So I can't pinpoint exactly how many yellows there were, but I definitely remember there being a couple big ones. Remember the dual race we also finished 2nd in. I believe Kevin Harvick beat us in that race. But we did win the 500, which was the most important race of that weekend, of course. That's all that mattered. That was the only points race, too. Lap traffic for the first time today took 35 laps to catch his first lap car. Kyle Petty goes a lap down, and now David Stremme will go a lap down as well. These first 2 lap cars giving Mark Martin, the race leader, plenty of room to get on by him as he continues to just drive away from the field. Paul Menard going to go a lap down? I think Menard qualified 11th, if I remember correctly. He qualified top half of the field. He's already back to 41st. Well, 43 cars still on the racetrack, and he was the third car to go a lap down. By Reed Sorensen, and then there's going to be a decent gap before Martin catches the next lap car. Be a few laps yet. We'll alternate through the different camera angles once again. If we can make it to lap 50 before getting to halfway out of gas, and we can definitely make this race on one stop. And we're coming up on lap 40 this time by, so we are definitely getting close. Dave Blaney in the 142 car, one of the fantasy drivers, going to go a lap down now. Tell you what, if your car's that are mid-pack right now, you can't just wait around for that first caution. Because even if we do end up seeing one in the first half of this race, Mark Martin is moving. He's already got a 6.3 second advantage in the first 43 laps of this race over second place. Haven't seen this much out of Mark this season where he just kind of pulls away. Might be the fastest race car he's had in a single race so far this season. And he just hit halfway out of gas at lap 44, so it's going to be a two-stop race today. That answers that question. Two stops for Mark Martin, though. I mean, he's pushing so fast and running so hard. I wonder if there's an opportunity for other drivers to be able to make it on one stop versus two. And now I guess we'll just have to wait till about the halfway mark for green flag pit stops to take place and see where we go from there. Martin's passing all these cars really clean. He hasn't made contact with a single car all day. And he's obviously kept it off the wall the entire race as well. A very clean first 46 laps here for the six. All clear as he slid a little wide off turn 2. Making sure he got up in front of the number 100 car, the Dover Monster. Honestly, the pace we're running, we may be able to pit an extra time and still end up winning this race. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, honestly. There's no point of saving now. Gone far enough into it that I'm going to have to be committed on this strategy. Lap 50 at the start-finish line up here. And over a 7.5 second lead. I'd imagine that the second place car and some of the other leaders at the front of the field have caught the back of the lap traffic now. As you look up at the track map in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and it seems fairly spaced out. Not a lot of gaps in there anywhere. We'll take that first field pass of the race today at the start-finish line. We'll drop back as Jamie McMurray in the 26 car first. And as you see, McMurray at the tail end of the lead lap, currently in 28th. Drives by Michael Waltrip, and we'll try to get him up in the running order a little bit further. I think I swapped to McMurray first, try to keep him on the lead lap for as long as possible. Help our teammates out a little bit. It's by Jared and Marlin. That's a product of poor qualifying for Dale Jarrett as well. He's only gotten up to 26th in 52 laps. Wonder if Martin's running a slightly slower pace right now as well. Well, one more lap with McMurray, and then we will make the next swap. Now we'll go to Matt Kenseth, as he is in fourth, so he's only lost one spot since the start of the race. You can see Ryan Newman just up ahead of him in third. Second place driver in points, Jimmy Johnson, in fifth. And Newman, Kenseth, Johnson running in the second through fourth place positions in the standings and third through fifth in this race, so not looking to really swap with each other a whole lot in the standings once again here, as they'll stay pretty tightly bunched together as they are on track. Kenseth looking to take third back away though from Ryan Newman, 8.7 seconds off the leader, these two. And I think that's Tony Stewart up there in second. Kenseth's going to use the lap car, Reed Sorensen as a pick to get by Newman, and Newman's going to have to get back down to the bottom and just follow Kenseth by the 41. That worked out pretty well. Might have a chance to get Kenseth back into P2. Pretty cool to have a 1-2 finish in the point standings as well. Kenseth still in search for that first win, but he's been very strong as he looks for 4 straight top 5s today. He's pacing a lot better on fuel than what Mark Martin is right now. But all clear off turn 2 for second for Matt Kenseth as he drives by Tony Stewart. He will swap to Greg Biffle in the 16, and currently Biffle is in 9th. And looking to get some more positions as well, as he's 13.7 seconds back. Jeff Green in 10th, right behind him. Possibility Green's looking at back-to-back top 10 finishes. A lot of lap cars here. Once Biffle gets by Sadler for 8th place, it's going to be a while before he even has a chance to catch anybody else. We're not even going to catch him before we swap away from Biffle either. Jerry Fasnat, thanks for tuning in. I mean, Bowman's got a chance to win Daytona, but I think he's got as good of a chance as pretty much anybody else. I I don't know. The Fords have just been way too strong on the super speedways this season for me to believe that somebody who is not in a Ford is going to win this weekend. And I mean, just trying to think of drivers in the Ford camp that need a win to get into the playoffs. I mean, Harvick's locked in with points. Blaney's already got a win. Logano's got a win already. Keselowski's in on points. Buescher's got a couple wins. So, a very good chance that we're not going to see a new winner this weekend if I had to lean. I mean, Eric Almirola is like maybe the only outlier. So we swap back to Mark Martin for right now, but even that, though, is a bit of a risk for me. Because he's not in contention every week, and SHR as a whole is just not good. Although he did have speed. I think it was at Atlanta, if I remember correctly. I thought he was up there towards the front for most of the race. I think really Almirola and Harvick were the only SHR cars that were really up in contention the whole time. Like Briscoe and Priest were really never to be found on the super speedway races this season from what I remember. So I think the best chance of somebody winning their way into the playoffs this weekend would probably be Almirola. If we are to see a new winner, I would lean towards Keselowski this weekend. I really like the RFK cars. I really like Buescher more than Keselowski, honestly, just because he has been a little bit hotter on track over the last month or so than Keselowski, but Keselowski has been so quick on the super speedways this season. Buescher's been right there with him, but Brad's leading a lot more laps. And he's won 3 stages on super speedways already this season. He just hasn't been able to get the win. He had the fastest car at Atlanta when we were there. So I don't know, we'll see. Mark Martin put Michael Waltrip a lap down. Lap 70 in this race as Mark Martin leads. Just hit that quarter tank of gas mark fairly recently. He's got a 7.5 second lead still. 3 wide at Richmond for the first time today. Gonna make sure he clears everybody. The 174 overdrove the corner, getting into 3, made contact with Dale Jarrett. So both slide up the racetrack, battling for that free pass position. Martin putting them both a lap down. A little bit of space and slight clean air now for Martin for the next few laps before he catches more lap traffic. So again, it's a 2 pit stop race here tonight. And we will see exactly what Mark Martin's going to be able to do as far as having a shot to win this race by pitting twice. He's definitely burning through more fuel than it seems like from everybody else. Now, there's a chance everybody else pits before lap 100, and then it's a 2-stop race for everybody. But if somebody can stretch it out, make it a 1-stop, they've got a very good chance of beating the 6, because fuel and pit strategy is really going to be the only way to do it. Mark Martin easily has the quickest car here tonight. And again, he's won a lot of times this season, but there's been a few of those times where we haven't had the quickest car, we got the win, and there's been times where I have had the quickest car and hadn't won, so can't win them all. But on a night like tonight, when you have this good of a race car, you have to get to victory lane, otherwise anything short of that is not going to cut it. And I mean, he's led every lap of this race from the pole too, and with it being only a 50% race, there's a very good chance Martin could go wire to wire and lead all 200 laps tonight. Well, not if he pits early, I guess, technically. If he's one of the first cars to pit road, I guess somebody else is going to end up leading anyway. He's taking care of his tires pretty well through the course of the run. And he's even with lapping as many cars as he has so far. 9.2 seconds ahead of Matt Kenseth, his teammate, in second. Assuming Kenseth is still ahead of Stewart, of course. Now 3 wide under Harvick and Truex. Second time Martin's made a 3 wide pass in lap traffic. his other teammate, Jamie McMurray's the last car in the lead lap, just up ahead. Eighth of a tank of gas left this point in the run. I'm going to pit at lap 85. I think that's going to be my plan. So lap 85 will be the scheduled pit stop for Mark Martin. Put McMurray lap down, who was right around 20th. So he's already lapped over half the field. Oh, need to check into the pits. We've got Jeff Gordon in as well. So with 20 laps to go in the race, or 20 laps to go, excuse me, until the halfway mark, we are seeing drivers hit pit road for the first time. With that being said, I don't want to get trapped a lap down. Oh man, we almost saw the first caution. Reed Sorensen barely missed pit road. Almost hit the barrels at the front entrance of that pit lane. Great job avoiding it. It's already a lap down. That would have been the first caution in the last couple of races. And somebody else just missed the pits as well. The 142 car, and he's down on the apron on fumes. A couple of our teammates are in. Jamie McMurray, Greg Biffle's still on the track. Kenseth's in now. Jeff Green coming into the pits. Getting blocked by that 171 car, hits the inside wall, goes all the way up the track as they crash. Caution's out for the first time. First time in 2 races the caution flag is out. It went down to block Mark Martin, then overdrove it straight up into Jeff Burton, bringing out our first caution. That's going to trap a lot of cars a lap down as we were in the middle of green flag pit stops when that caution flag took place. And everybody who has not pitted yet will be on their way in. Martin doesn't want to miss his opportunity. No adjustments here, 4 tires and fuel for the 16. How many cars can Mark Martin put a lap down in the race? A lot. I mean, we lapped over half the field already. The caution's going to allow for more cars to have a chance of finishing on the lead lap. And the fact that it's a 50% race as well. It's probably good it's 50% for the rest of the field. It gives them maybe more of a chance. And Tony Stewart wins the race off pit road, so Mark Martin not going to lead all laps today. Stewart's going to be the leader on the restart. Martin was second out of the pits. The green flag is back in the air. And Kenseth's first car a lap down. All the lap cars to the inside of the lead lap cars. Lap 88 restart. Martin stuck on the outside. 3 wide. He gets squeezed into the wall by Kurt Busch. He was already against the wall. He couldn't go any higher. And the 3 wide there did not work. Martin's still stuck on the outside. Lost a lot of time to Tony Stewart. Falls back to 4th. Still stuck on the outside of the racetrack. Just can't get down to the bottom. I don't want to put the full blame on Kurt there because they were 3 wide. More contact. Martin battle tested right now trying to get to the bottom. That contact with Kyle Busch allowed for Kurt to get to the inside and pull clear. Jimmy Johnson runs into the 6 and knocked him up into the fence a little bit off turn 2 as well. Like he got a little loose. Now there's room to pull back to that inside lane, and Mark Martin looking to take off and try to get to the front of the field. Clears Kurt. Back up to third place. I think that pass on the 2 car was for third. Not sure who's in second exactly. I don't know if it is Casey Kane or not. Elliott Sadler goes up the track. He goes up into the outside wall. Contact with Matt Kenseth as he overdrove the corner. Martin to the inside of Casey Kane. It was the first car lap down. I think Sadler would have been that spot for second that Martin was able to get back. Tony Stewart able to get a little bit of lap sled in this race, winning the race out of the pits. Martin getting squeezed into the wall there on the restart at 3 wide. But on lap 94, it's the 6 back to the inside of the 20 to retake the lead just shy of the halfway mark. No contest there. Tony Stewart, no chance of being able to hang on. Stewart overdrives the car, trying to keep up with Martin in turns 3 and 4 there. And Martin looking to set sail. I think I'm just going to end up getting that last time I'm going to change through the teammates here at Roush Fenway Racing very soon. So we do get close to this halfway mark. Stewart doing what he can to try to keep up with Mark Martin. I'll give him that. Maybe making some adjustments on that 20 car, allowing for him to stay up with the 6. And when you consider the fact that Mark Martin has that clean air advantage, Stewart does not have anymore. He's doing what he can to stay right there. We will swap to Matt Kenseth at the start-finish line. I think he just credited Kenseth for leading the lap. The line for some reason. He's trying to get into that free pass position, which would be 8th place on Casey Kane. There are only 7 cars on the lead lap with the caution coming out in the middle of green flag stops. There's a first of 2 pit stops in this race. That window will open up with about 80 laps to go to make it to the end. Sadler on the lead lap, trying to close the gap on the 9 and the 17. I wonder where Biffle and McMurray are at in the running order. I know McMurray went a lap down even before pit stops, and I think he did pit. I don't think Biffle was on pit road yet when the caution came out. Could be wrong. So we'll swap to Biffle next to see where he's at. One more lap in with Kenseth here this time by. Kenseth running down Stuart Martin, wanting to get his lap back the old-fashioned way. Halfway home here tonight at Richmond. 1 caution, right at about that lap 85 in this race. Kenseth to the inside of Stewart, so break up those top 2 just a little bit. Kenseth's gonna get by him. Quickly looking to the inside of his teammate Mark Martin as well. Looking to get that lap back. And yeah, I was right. So Biffle is not pitted yet. Currently sits in 7th, just under 6 seconds off the lead. A lot of traffic right in front of the Biff. Johnson definitely trapped the lap down. trying to crowd Biffle a little too late. Newman a lap down. Yaley was for position. He was one of the few cars trapped on the lead lap still. And Greg Biffle has now moved into the top 5. First time today I think Biffle's been in the top 5. He was running 8th before that caution. 7th afterwards, and now in 5th. And we know that there were only 7 cars on the lead lap, so he's towards the tail end of that lead lap right now. Tony Stewart, by the way, back to the lead. Rainer Martinez, welcome to the stream. We'll swap to Jamie McMurray, who is going to be 2 laps down. Jeff Green just moved him out of the way off the exit of turn 4. Very quickly gets back down to the bottom. 25th for Jamie Mack. Not sure how many more positions McMurray could gain at 2 laps down without getting a lap back. Definitely tough to say. Wheel drive is Mark Martin for the rest of this race. 1 second off the lead again from Stewart. We sit back just a little bit, but clearly has the fastest car in the race today. Wasn't for that caution, he probably would have already clinched the most laps led, but Stewart winning the race out of the pits has been the only other driver to lead in tonight's race other than Mark Martin. Passed him back, and then Stewart obviously back to the lead again, so even though we have had just 2 different leaders, few lead changes between them. And about to have another if Martin can get back by the 20 of Stewart, which he is easily going to be able to do through 1 and 2. I mean, Stewart hasn't been too aggressive with trying to block Martin here in these early laps. And so now Mark Martin is back out in front again. Kensington was so close to getting that lap back a little while ago. Not the case anymore. 85 laps to go this time by. You can see the back of the lap traffic up there, but it's still going to be a little while before Mark Martin catches any of them. And the fuel window is just about open to be able to make it to the end from here. First run, Martin was looking like he could have went anywhere between 87 and 88 laps to the end, so if we were to see a caution right now, we would definitely pit for that final time. The lone caution of the race today came out at lap 85, just a couple laps before Mark Martin would have had to pit. Not so hot on the restart, definitely wants to count on his pick crew not losing many spots this next time. Even if he does, if he has more than 20 laps to try to come back from it, should be no problem. Martin has clinched the most laps led, which means Tony Stewart was able to lead about 18 laps then. maybe 17 laps. Kind of felt like he led a little more than that, to be completely honest. Martin has clinched the most, so that would be 10 bonus points. Got the max points day 2 races ago at Dagan. Although winning at Michigan, he was about 19 laps shy of Jeff Gordon for the most laps led in that race. Here today, no contest, at least for the most laps led, is even before that first caution came out, it was more than likely easily going to be able to be Mark Martin's. And that was the case. But now can he get the win? A lot of racing still to go, and Stewart has definitely picked up the pace from where he was that first run. I mean, Mark Martin had as big of about a 12-second lead over Stewart prior to the green flag pit stops, because obviously Tony Stewart never pitted, was still in second, so that interval right when that caution came out of 12.05 seconds was legitimate over Stewart. Second lap in a row, 1 and 2. I went way too far down to the apron. Paul Menard at the back of this pack. And there's a group of 5 cars just up the way. .75 laps to go at Richmond for Mark Martin, a 1.2 second lead over Tony Stewart. Stewart, the only driver to win other than Mark Martin in the last 6 races. Martin trying to go for 3 wins in a row here. That win for Stewart was in the Coke 600, where Martin finished 11th that day. As long as Stewart makes it to the end, he's locked into a top 7 place finish, considering there are only 7 cars on the lead lap. Definitely tell nobody who's wanting a short pit, because that window's been open for a little over 10 laps now and nobody's made a stop. Nobody wants to take any risks of going a lap down based off of where we saw that first caution in the middle of green flag stops, especially if you are still on the lead lap. There's a likelihood of Mark Martin catching you to the end of the race going to be very slim, considering you would have all been at the front of the field for that last restart. Oh, geez, I was looking at the chat. Hang on. Michael Turner, welcome to the stream. Looking at the chat, next thing I know, I look back up at my TV and I was near the grass on the front stretch. Should not be that close to it at Richmond. No extra speed there, I'll tell you that much. good solid run going here for the 6 team all night long. Didn't execute perfectly on pit road. The only laps he did not lead. Tony Stewart was able to lead on that last restart, but Martin back out in front, obviously, and slowly pulling away. Not as rapid of a pace as that first field run, but still pulling Stewart nevertheless. Just getting to halfway out of gas at this point in the run, with 67 laps to go. Would have last restarted at lap 88. So it has been about 47 laps. Pacing a little bit better on fuel this time around than what he was earlier. Still nowhere near being able to make it to the finish though. From the caution, of course. NASCAR Vintage 17, thanks for tuning in. I would not be shocked if we see another caution in the middle of green flag stops. And the reason I say that is because there were a couple drivers we saw that missed pit road that almost hit the barrels at the front entrance of pit road. And that could end up bringing out a caution, obviously, if somebody were to do so. Luckily, I never had to make a green flag stop with anybody in that situation. I might have to the next time around. It could be possible Tony Stewart could be one adjustment away from keeping up with Mark Martin completely, considering how much closer he is to him on speed during this run than what he was that first run. Not sure where exactly he qualified and started this race either, so it could have taken him time to get to second first, which he could have used up quite a bit of his tires instead of restarting in the lead like he did. 60 laps left at Richmond. A 2.4 second lead now for Martin. Jeff Burton just up ahead, 31 car. He was one of the 2 cars involved in that last incident, along with the 171. There's a fantasy driver near him. I don't think it's that same car. Second advantage. A little bit of a crank on that left front fender for Burton. I don't think it's going to be enough to cause any debris caution, at least I wouldn't think. Although you never know. A lot of laps left. All he has to do is make contact with another car, it might fall off. Fastest lap of the race that last time for Martin, 21.546. lot of tightly bunched lap cars up in the distance. Marlin overdrove it, almost made contact with Harvick getting into turn 3. Down to 50 laps to go at Richmond for Mark Martin. Gonna lap his teammate Jamie McMurray for the 3rd time today. We'll break for McMurray. Probably would have only finished 1 lap down if it wasn't for that caution where he had already made a green flag stop, lost a couple laps, and now during this green flag run loses a 3rd. Going 85 laps off the start, already making it to lap 88 of this run. We are pretty closely nearing our longest green flag run of the day. Slight contact with Tony Raines. Slid him a little too early off the exit of turn 2, making slight contact with him. A Waltrip will be the next lap car. If I were Tony Stewart, I would be hoping for a caution the closer we get to that set of green flag pit stops coming up, the better for him, because then he can potentially win the race off pit road like he did the first time and try to fend off Mark Martin. That would be his best chance of trying to win. With a little tapped out left rear of Michael Waltrip's race car. 45 laps to go now. Derek Booth, thanks for tuning in tonight. .9-second lead, nearly 5 seconds ahead is Martin over Stewart. Still nowhere near that 12-second lead he had earlier, but still a pretty decent lead, obviously. No pressure on him for right now, just hoping this stays green. We get through green flag pit stops and hope that he doesn't have a speeding penalty. Makes it to pit road without potentially missing it. Started seeing cars pit right around lap 80-81 earlier. From the restart, granted some drivers obviously pitted before the caution, so we honestly could see green flag pit stops starting again any moment. It's going to be a little bit while longer before Martin would even consider pitting, but again, everybody in the field having to pit one more time yet. Jim Johnson trying to move Jeff Green out of the way. A little bit of contact in the center of 3 and 4. Johnson being one of the cars a lap down. You wonder how far back in the running order is he. Ken's at the lap down 2, and so is Newman. So second, third, and fourth in points all lap down in this race after all running in the top 5 through the first half. 40 to go now. Dover Monster starting to block Mark Martin. And contact with the Dover Monster and Paul Menard, and that will bring out our second caution of the race with just less than 40 to go. And it's before green flag pit stops. Almost a carbon copy of how the first yellow happened, and Michael Waltrip pounded that fantasy car very hard too. It looked like his hood popped off after he had slammed into the lap car. So our final pit stop will happen under caution just as the first one did. Less than 40 laps to go. 4 tires and fuel, and we'll see if Martin can win the race off of pit road this time. Clean on the right sides, and that first stop was clean too. Stewart's team just had a much faster stop. Plain and simple. This time, it's Greg Biffle who's going to win the race out of the pits and slow out of the box there for Martin, but it didn't cost him any more spots with Kenseth a lap down. All right, well, here we go. It'll be the Biff out in front getting 5 bonus points, 36 to go. He leads the field to the restart. And we're back to racing again at Richmond. Got to the bottom a lot quicker that time around. Slides clear of Kyle Busch. 3 wide now for the lead on the front stretch with the lap car of Casey Kane all the way up high. Biffle in the middle groove. Casey Kane and Greg Biffle get together off turn 2. Martin's clear and looking to drive away as it looks like Kurt Busch is going to move into second. A little crowded there when they were 3 wide in the center of the corner. Biffle was still a little bit wide. And I don't think he made contact with Kane until after Kane bounced off the wall. I think Kane ricocheted off the wall into Biffle and nearly hooked him in the middle of the back straightaway. Multiple positions lost for the 16 car. Casey Kane falls out of the free pass spot now, and here we go. And it looks like Jimmy Johnson might be the free pass car back there, second in line behind Kurt Busch all of a sudden. I believe it's Johnson. Martin just hoping they stay green to the end now. .32 to go. Kurt Busch have anything for Mark? Story so far tonight has been that nobody's had anything for Mark Martin on track. Second out of the pits twice. That number 1 pit box for Greg Biffle really helped. Now you would think with us qualifying on the pole that we could pick the number 1 pit box. That's not the case. If there's one thing with the next NASCAR game, that'd be pretty cool. Well, I guess the last NASCAR game kind of had it. I will actually give NASCAR 21 Ignition credit for this one thing, and that is wherever you started / qualified the race, that's the pit box you had. So if you did qualify P1, you actually did get the number 1 pit box. One thing with these old EA games, you pretty much have the same box every single track you go to. It's towards the entrance or towards the exit of pit road, but it's not like the front couple boxes. So it's kind of tough, as you saw right there, for Martin to get out of his box, which made the pit exit time following the 4-tire stop a little bit longer, with having another car right in front of him. That was not a good corner. Looked down at the chat down on the back straightaway, and I realized I was really low getting in. Kurt Busch trying to hang around there, still 9/10 of a second off the lead. It took a while for Martin to really start pulling away from Stewart. Honestly, it took to lap traffic. I don't think Martin's going to catch any lap traffic the rest of this race if it stays green. The best chance of having lap traffic is if we get another caution. Then you would have all those lap cars to the inside of the lead lap cars again. 26 laps left. This time by Mark Martin trying to go for 3 wins in a row. It'll be 11 on the season if he can get the win. Maybe there's a chance we break Richard Petty's all-time record of 27 wins in a season. Maybe there's a chance. 11 in the first 18. We'd have to... We gotta think here. I think we'd have to win all but 2 more races the rest of the season if we were to break the record. So it's probably not going to happen. But if there was one way to do it, it'd be in a video game. Maybe we knock off 10, 12 wins in a row, then we'll start considering it. But for right now, I don't think we're going to have any chance, so let's just lay that conversation to rest. Ain't no way I'm winning 16 of the last 18 races. To break the record, I guess I'd have to lose only 1 more race to get the 28 wins. I mean, he had like 55 races that season, so I mean, if we can do that in 36, he should give us a tiebreaker. It's based off of the winning percentage alone. More competitive era. I mean, Martin did a great job getting out ahead of Kurt Busch. I mean, granted, the only reason Kurt got the second so quickly as he did is because he kind of escaped to the inside of Greg Biffle and Casey Kane and made contact on the restart right in front of him. Otherwise, he might have been stuck behind him a little bit longer yet. Fastest lap of the day that last time for Martin. That lap alone, he grew his lead out over Kurt Busch by about 0.2 of a second. Dropped to 21.503. 20 laps to go at the line this time by for Martin. We have had 2 cautions tonight, more than what we had all of 2 nights ago's race at Michigan. And that was a full race, this one just a 50%er. I don't know what would create a better opportunity on a restart for Kurt Busch to be able to take the lead from Martin. I don't know if it would be with lap cars to the inside or not. Typically you would say without lap cars to the inside, but the only reason I would say that maybe that would be better in this situation is just because Mark Martin's got that much faster of a race car here tonight than everybody else. And if he can't get it underneath him into turn 1, it's pretty much over. But at least with the lap car to the inside already, there's a chance Martin doesn't clear that car off turn 2, and you might have another attempt in 3 and 4 to get around him if you could get to the bottom quick enough. But he would need that caution very soon because we're at 16 to go now. Figure 3 to 4 laps would take away under the yellow. And again, with 10 or less laps left on a restart, that is where the lap cars would have to go behind all the lead lap cars. And there aren't many lead lap cars. I mean, that last caution gave the free pass to, I think, Matt Kenseth, if I had to guess. Because he was battling with Kane, and Kane was still lapped down in that restart as you saw. So 8 cars on the lead lap currently. Get another caution. Free pass would give somebody else a lap back, so we'd only have 9 cars left on the lead lap. And I don't know, we obviously have had much longer green flag runs than what it would take for us to get to the checker here. This would be just a 36 lap run to the checker. Easily the shortest green flag run of the night. The evenly spaced first 2 cautions. .6 second lead, 13 to go. We'll try to go for 4 wins in a row again at Daytona tomorrow night for the Pepsi 400. The summer night race at Daytona and the summer night race weekend for Daytona in real life. Coming up just 2 days after the fact for the NASCAR Cup Series. Got to qualify well, because I don't remember qualifying well for the 500, but we ended up finishing second in the dual race, so I got to start third. Or fifth, rather, in the Daytona 500. We need to qualify a little bit better in single car qualifying, so that way get up there. I did qualify for the pole at Talladega, though, which helped me lead a lot of laps and win. Nine laps remaining, just over a 2-second lead. Eight to go. Countdown definitely on. Guess there's a chance Mark Martin can catch those lap cars up in front of him before the end. I have to hope that they get out of his way quickly. And even then, he gets to them, he could pretty much just sit behind them. Although his lead's not massive over Kurt Busch, by the time he would catch them, would only be with probably a lap or 2 left anyway. 6 to go. Fastest lap of the race at last time by Martin, 21.401. What a lap. Saving the best for last as we near the end. Definitely not saving anything. No need to, I guess. 4 to go. 3-second lead. 3 wide underneath Kyle Petty, Paul Menard. Menard involved in that last incident that we just had. 3 to go this time by. Quite a few lap cars up there. 3 to go. Two to go. Get by this 171 car. Shouldn't have to worry about catching anybody else. Trying to get to that white flag. No cautions on the final lap in this game. Nearly 3 wide right in front of Mark Martin off turn 4. They're all side by side. 1 lap to go. This is it. Gonna get by Dave Blaney, David Stremme, and Scott Riggs after all. Right there at the finish, checkered flag. Mark Martin dominates and wins at Richmond, his 3rd win in a row, his 11th of the season, as he wins the Richmond 200. Ah, man, I cannot do a burnout here. I was just dragging the brakes forever, and I couldn't get it to actually turn. There we go. That wasn't great either. Hang on, we'll figure it out one of these times. Third time's a charm. I've had enough practice. Good enough. Alright. Let's go. Wow, Biffle fell back to 6th after leading in that last restart. 177 of the 200 laps led tonight for Martin in a dominating win. It says 16 lead changes. We had a lot less than that. I'm not sure why it said we had that many lead changes. Ryan Newman did not lead a lap. Elliott Sadler, I know for a fact, didn't lead. How did all these drivers lead? It was Martin. Stewart won the race off pit road. Then we took the lead back from Stewart. Stewart led 16 laps. And then Biffle won the race off of pit road. And it only credited him with 1 lap led. He should have led more laps than that under caution. So, yeah, I don't know where it scored all these other drivers with a lap led. Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, nobody DNF'd. Menard on track finished 7 laps down, but 6 laps down, sorry, but nobody ended up DNFing. And 8 cars finished on the lead lap in total. Mark Martin with the win, Kurt Busch 2nd, Ryan Newman 3rd, Tony Stewart 4th, Elliott Sadler rounds out the top 5, Greg Biffle in 6th, Matt Kenseth 7th, JJ Yaley 8th, Denny Hamlin 9th, and Jeremy Mayfield rounds out the top 10. So that is the finishing order for tonight's race. 3.3 seconds, margin of victory, 1 hour, 20 minutes, 37 seconds total time in the race. And the average race speed was 111.62 miles per hour. We had 2 cautions here tonight. So tomorrow we try to go for 4 wins in a row. And we try to get the Daytona sweep. After winning the Daytona 500 at the start of the year, we'll try to win the Pepsi 400 tomorrow. And that will be a full race too, so it will be 160 laps. We've got the Brickyard 400 at Indy coming up here in a couple races yet as well. So, a couple bigger races on the schedule. 2 cautions, that's it. Well, more than what we had last race. We had none last. It was only a 50% race too, so I wasn't expecting too many yellows if we were to see any, and that was the case. But full race tomorrow and Daytona, I'd expect there to be a lot more. We have a 505-point lead over Johnson, who did not finish in the top 10 tonight, so he falls even further back in points. He's had 2 finishes outside the top 10 in the last 3 races. I think he's only had 3 finishes outside the top 10 all season, so definitely slipping back, but he's still got 139 points over Newman in 3rd. And Newman does retake 3rd after finishing in, 3rd tonight? Kenseth had a top 10 though, but they were just so close to the points that Newman jumps him again. Tony Stewart moves into the top 5 in points now after, of course, finishing in 2nd. Finishing with a top 5 in leading laps. And JJ Yaley still leading the Rookie of the Year standings, it looks like. So, all right. Be sure to like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Pepsi 400 Daytona. Hope to see you there. Start time on the stream I'm not entirely sure about, but definitely stay tuned in the community tab if I post anything about the start time. And also be sure to hit that bell notification so you don't miss the start of the race, start of the stream. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your night, and we'll get our Daytona race weekend started tomorrow.